Ethan had always loved the quiet of the woods. For years, he had owned a small, remote cabin tucked deep among towering pine trees and thick underbrush. Most people thought the place was abandoned, and that was exactly how he liked it. The world beyond the forest seemed far away here, replaced by the sound of rustling leaves, birdsong, and the occasional hoot of an owl. Life was simple. Life was calm. He spent his mornings chopping wood, tending a small garden, and occasionally hiking the winding trails that crisscrossed the surrounding forest. Evenings were for reading, or simply staring out at the dark canopy of trees while the wind whispered secrets only he could almost hear. But one night, that peace began to shift in ways he couldn't yet understand. It started with small things. At first, it was just lights. Flickering, pale blue lights that seemed to move among the trees, appearing only at the edge of his vision. He thought it might be some kind of reflection, or perhaps fireflies behaving oddly. But they weren't fireflies. They pulsed with an intelligence that made him uneasy, almost as if they were watching him. Then came the sounds. Low, humming tones like a mechanical heartbeat, rising and falling with the wind. At first, he dismissed it as animals moving through the undergrowth. But no animal made a sound like that. It wasn't natural. His curiosity mixed with caution, keeping him on edge each night. One morning, after a restless sleep, Ethan decided to explore a part of the forest he hadn't touched before. The sun had barely crested the horizon when he set out, machete in hand to clear thick brush. His boots crunched against fallen pine needles, and the smell of damp earth filled his lungs. He walked farther than he ever had, deeper into a section of the woods where the trees grew so close together that the sunlight barely reached the ground. There, hidden beneath vines and fallen branches, he found something unusual. A small, almost perfectly circular indentation in the ground. Curious, he knelt and brushed the leaves aside. His fingers touched cold metal. It was a hatch that didn't belong here, or at least, it didn't belong in any cabin he had ever known. Rust covered the edges and the lock was ancient, though still intact. Ethan's heart beat faster. This was the kind of discovery that could change everything. He had always believed that some parts of the forest held secrets. He just hadn't expected one beneath his very own cabin. He tried to open it, but the lock held firm. Frustrated, he examined the hatch more closely. There were no signs of recent disturbance, no footprints or marks, just the cold, solid metal. A part of him told him to leave it alone, to walk away and forget he had ever seen it. But curiosity, the same trait that had brought him to the forest in the first place, would not let him. He spent the next few days gathering tools, experimenting with ways to open the lock without breaking it. Finally, after hours of careful work with improvised tools, the hatch creaked open. A rush of cool, stale air escaped, carrying with it a strange scent, metallic and sweet. Ethan peered into the darkness. The ladder leading down into the unknown was old, metal rungs coated in rust, but solid enough to support him. With a deep breath, he descended. The air grew cooler as he went, carrying with it the faint hum that had haunted him at night. The walls were smooth and metallic, shaped in ways that didn't look natural. Shapes and lines ran along the surfaces, glowing faintly, almost as if they were alive. At the bottom, he found a chamber. It was bigger than he expected, roughly the size of a small warehouse. In the center of the room was a pod, suspended above the floor by glowing beams of energy. The pod was crystalline, clear and flawless, with intricate patterns etched across its surface. Inside floated a small being, humanoid in shape but not human. Its skin had a subtle shimmer, its eyes closed in stasis. Ethan stepped closer, the hum growing louder in his ears. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. This was no ordinary discovery. This was something far beyond human technology. He reached out, touching the pod, and instantly a surge of warmth and electricity shot through his hand. The room seemed to respond, lights brightening and dimming like a heartbeat. Then the alien stirred. Its eyes opened, and for the first time Ethan heard a voice, not spoken aloud but inside his mind. "Do not be afraid," it said. Ethan staggered back, his heart pounding. The voice wasn't in his ears, it was in his thoughts, and it was calm, gentle, and intelligent. I'm not," he stammered, unsure if it could hear his words or only his thoughts. "You have freed me," the being continued, "and for that I owe you guidance. My name is Lyria. I am part of a civilization observing your world, seeking those capable of joining us." "You are one such human." Ethan blinked, trying to make sense of what he had just heard. A civilization, observing Earth. It sounded impossible, yet the evidence was right in front of him. Lyria floated effortlessly inside the pod, her body surrounded by glowing symbols that shifted and shimmered with her emotions. "What, what do you mean?" he finally asked. "Our kind monitors emerging civilizations," Lyria explained. "We identify individuals with qualities that may shape the future of their species. Courage, curiosity, compassion, you possess these, Ethan." He shook his head. "I'm just a guy who lives in the woods." Lyria's gaze, though not entirely human, seemed piercing. "You have potential. Potential to help humanity reach beyond its limitations. Potential to survive what is coming. But first, you must understand knowledge changes everything. Are you prepared?" Ethan hesitated. The weight of the moment pressed down on him. If he agreed, there was no going back. The quiet life he had cherished would be gone forever, but something in him stirred, a longing for more, for something beyond the solitude and the routine. I want to understand," he said finally. A smile touched Lyria's face. "Then we begin." Over the following days, Ethan learned more than he ever thought possible. The pod opened fully, allowing him to approach, and Lyria shared knowledge directly into his mind. He saw images of distant planets, of stars being born, of civilizations thriving and falling. He understood physics in ways that had seemed impossible, learned strategies for survival and innovation, and glimpsed the technology that could propel humanity forward. But with knowledge came responsibility. Ethan realized that the world outside the forest would never accept what he now knew. Governments, scientists, militaries, they would all want to control this power, and if Lyria's presence became known, there would be no turning back. Even as he absorbed this knowledge, he felt the first real fear he had in a long time, not for himself, but for the alien who trusted him. "I have to protect her," he thought. "No one can know, not yet." The nights were no longer silent. He would sit by the pod, speaking silently with Lyria, learning her language, understanding her thoughts. Occasionally, a distant light would flicker outside, evidence that someone, or something, was aware of the activity below. It was a reminder that discovery came with danger. One evening, as a storm raged above the forest, the cabin shaking under the wind, Ethan reflected on how much his life had changed in just a few days. He had come to the woods seeking peace, but he had found something far greater, a glimpse into the stars, a connection to an intelligence far beyond Earth, and a challenge that would test his courage like nothing else. He knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The quiet life he had cherished was gone, replaced by a reality that demanded action, vigilance, and bravery. And deep inside, Ethan felt a spark of excitement he hadn't felt in years. Somewhere beneath the cabin, glowing and humming with life, Lyria waited. And Ethan, human and unprepared as he was, realized that he had a role to play, a role that could shape the destiny of humanity itself. For the first time in his life, the woods felt alive not just with nature, but with purpose. And deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. Ethan woke early, the first rays of sunlight filtering through the dense canopy of the forest. The cabin no longer felt like a simple retreat. It was now a gateway to something far bigger than himself, a link to knowledge that could change humanity forever. Lyria's pod hovered silently in the hidden chamber beneath the cabin, glowing faintly as if sensing his thoughts. "Good morning," Lyria's voice echoed in his mind, calm and steady. "Morning," he replied, though his voice sounded strange in the confined space. He approached her, fascinated by the energy that seemed to ripple through the room. "I've been thinking, how do we even start? There's so much I don't understand." "You start by learning to trust your instincts," she said. "Knowledge is not enough. Humans must act. You have curiosity and courage. That will guide you." Ethan nodded, taking a deep breath. The first lesson was clear. This was not just about learning alien science or technology. It was about using it responsibly, without exposing it to a world unprepared for such revelations. Over the next few days, Ethan's routine changed completely. He explored the chamber, discovering panels and controls he couldn't yet comprehend. Lyria guided him, teaching him to interact with the technology safely. Together, they activated small devices, and each one revealed more about the alien civilization's purpose, monitoring emerging worlds, identifying potential allies, and sometimes intervening to prevent catastrophic events. Ethan was astonished. He realized that humanity had been watched for centuries, studied quietly from afar, and now, by pure chance, he had become part of that story. One afternoon, he tested a small drone-like device that hovered silently, scanning the forest and transmitting images directly into his mind. The forest looked normal at first, but as he studied the data, he noticed patterns, energy flows, hidden structures, and points where the natural and the technological intersected. "This is incredible," he whispered. "It's like seeing a hidden world within our own." Lyria's voice filled his thoughts. "It is a world that humans are not yet ready to see, but you are, Ethan. That is why you were chosen." He spent hours experimenting with the technology. He learned to manipulate energy flows, control small devices, and even enhance his own physical capabilities temporarily. Lyria explained that the enhancements were temporary, a way for him to experience what humans might achieve when fully developed. His strength, speed, and senses all sharpened, and he could feel the forest in ways he had never imagined. Every leaf, every gust of wind, every distant sound seemed amplified, interconnected. But knowledge came with tension. One evening, as Ethan was calibrating a device that projected a holographic map of the surrounding forest, he noticed movement outside. Shadows flitted among the trees, unnatural in their speed and coordination. Someone, or something, was watching. His first instinct was fear. But he had learned from Lyria that fear could be managed. Quietly, he moved to the hidden entrance, peering through the underbrush. A small team, dressed in dark uniforms, was approaching the cabin. They carried scanners and equipment that pulsed faintly with energy, similar to Lyria's technology. Ethan's heart pounded. These were not ordinary humans. "Who are they?" he asked Lyria, urgency creeping into his thoughts. "They are observers like me," she replied, calm but firm. "But they do not have my perspective. They may try to claim the knowledge for themselves. You must protect it." Ethan felt the weight of responsibility settle over him. He realized that the secret of the chamber could not be shared. If the wrong people discovered it, humanity could misuse it, or worse, destroy it. Using the skills Lyria had taught him, he prepared defenses that were invisible and non-lethal. Energy fields shimmered along the edges of the forest, creating illusions and redirecting attention. When the team arrived, they were confused by shifting terrain, disappearing trees, and phantom noises. Ethan observed silently from above, his senses heightened, heart racing with the thrill of the challenge. After hours of futile searching, the team left, convinced the readings were errors. Ethan exhaled, his mind racing with relief and exhilaration. He had protected the secret, and in doing so, realized how capable humans could be when guided by courage, intelligence, and responsibility. In the days that followed, Ethan focused on learning more from Lyria. She revealed the alien civilization's history, showing him images of planets and species he could barely comprehend. He saw thriving worlds where beings collaborated across species, as well as civilizations destroyed by greed, fear, and violence. It became clear to him that knowledge alone was not enough. Humanity needed guidance, careful stewardship, and ethical courage. Ethan also began experimenting with small enhancements on himself. Simple things at first: heightened perception, quicker reflexes, and stronger endurance. Each trial was monitored by Lyria, who reminded him that the goal was not to become superhuman, but to unlock potential safely and responsibly. He felt himself changing slowly, not just physically but mentally. He thought faster, analyzed more deeply, and began to see patterns in human behavior he had never noticed before. One evening, while walking along a ridge near the cabin, Ethan reflected on how much his life had transformed. The quiet, solitary life he had cherished was gone. In its place was a reality filled with wonder, danger, and responsibility. He could no longer think only of himself. He was part of something larger, something that could shape the future of humanity. "Ethan," Lyria said in his mind, breaking his reverie, "you are ready for the next step." "What next step?" he asked, a mix of excitement and apprehension stirring in him. "Collaboration. Observation alone is not enough. You must begin to test what humans are capable of. The world outside your forest is unprepared, but you can prepare it. Slowly, carefully, you are the bridge." He nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. This was no longer just about survival or curiosity. It was about shaping a destiny, guiding humanity toward its potential. Over the following weeks, Ethan began discreetly helping people in small ways. He repaired machinery no one else could fix, saved hikers lost in the forest using precise knowledge he had gained, and quietly prevented accidents that could have ended lives. Each act reinforced his confidence in human potential, and Lyria's presence guided him in ways he could not yet articulate. But the real test came unexpectedly. One morning, a powerful storm struck the forest, worse than any in memory. Trees toppled, rivers flooded, and entire paths vanished under debris. A group of hikers was trapped, and the local authorities were powerless to reach them in time. Ethan moved quickly, using the alien technology to stabilize paths, create safe routes, and even manipulate the environment subtly to guide the hikers to safety. Lyria's voice was in his mind the entire time, calm and reassuring. Together, they saved every person. For the first time, he understood the true meaning of the alien civilization's mission. Humanity had potential, yes, but it also needed courage, foresight, and wisdom. And he, an ordinary man who had once sought peace in the woods, was helping to unlock it. Weeks passed, and Ethan grew more confident in his role. He had become a guardian, a bridge between worlds. He knew that one day, humans might be ready for the knowledge he now possessed. And when that day came, they could rise to greatness or fall to ruin, depending on the choices they made. Lyria floated nearby, watching him with a quiet sense of satisfaction. "You have done well," she said. "Humanity may yet surprise the galaxy, and it will start with those like you." Ethan smiled, looking out at the forest, now alive with light and energy in ways invisible to ordinary eyes. He felt a sense of purpose deeper than anything he had ever known. The cabin was no longer a simple retreat. It was a place of transformation, a hidden nexus where Earth's potential could awaken. And deep within, he knew this was only the beginning. One day, humanity would reach the stars. And when it did, it would remember the quiet man in the woods who discovered a hidden world beneath his cabin, and the alien who had entrusted him with its secrets. The woods were no longer just trees and wildlife. They were a reminder that discovery, courage, and curiosity could transform not just a life, but an entire species. And Ethan, once a solitary man seeking peace, now carried the weight of that transformation and the hope of a future beyond the stars. The hum of Lyria's pod filled the chamber, steady and alive, as Ethan prepared for what came next. For in that quiet corner of the earth, in a cabin among the trees, humanity's potential had quietly, irrevocably begun to awaken. And with it, the story of a human and an alien who dared to dream together had only just begun.